Welcome, everybody. Good evening. This is Shantae, aka Shantizi. Welcome to my analysis on Thursday, May 28th, 2020. It's pretty a jam packed day. Got some news for you. So I hope everybody's well. I will say Thirsty Thursday, but it's like somber week. We have one hell of a week in our country. We're suffering from two pandemics, a pandemic of a global health crisis and a pandemic of Black people being attacked. So here am I with these things. As you know, we're 1.7 million cases in for COVID. 101,000, almost 102,000 deaths in the country. And we still have no national testing strategy, of course. And our unemployment numbers have came in and it's over 40%. No, excuse me, it's over 40 million, which is close to 24%, which is almost damn near close to the depression percentage rate of unemployment of nearly 25%. So, and our GDP has dropped, which is the gross domestic product, and the retail numbers are worse than ever. And yet we don't have a great national response to that. And the Republicans and Trump is downplaying it. The unemployment extra $600 benefit will expire at the end of July, and there's no no plan that the Republicans will pass the legislation that's the Democratic House passed, along with bills that are introduced but not introduced to the Senate floor, was by Kamala, Bernie, and Ed Murkey. So that's where we are in our country. I'm going to get to the other things that's important into my heart. Those are the financial implications of it. And I will get to this whole Twitter nonsense Trump has done. In Cuomo's briefing today, he had a little woeful to say today. In terms of the hospitalizations are down, new cases coming in the hospital are down, the intubations are down, the mortality rate has gone down. 74 people died yesterday. Also, the question is how, reopening phases, and he talked about reopening the city, because the city is the only region that hasn't been reopened through the state due to our high cases of COVID positive cases. And they say that also, I just learned today that New York State only had received $23,000 in relief funding, which is not even a fifth of what we pay. That's about like a tenth or maybe lower than what the state pays to contribute to the federal pot. Because according to Andrew Cuomo's numbers, and according to those are actual facts, we contribute almost $30 billion to the federal government. So why we only receive $23,000, while Alaska received over $3 million. No, excuse me, over $3 million or $3 billion. They received more money than what we did. And that was due to partisan stuff. As Cuomo hit them with it yesterday. Hit them with it again today, but more calm than usual and measured. Also, in order to rebuild the economy, you have to revitalize it. That means create new jobs, focus on infrastructure, focus on, rebuilding the airports and, the train stations and the bridges, because the roads are messed up, the bridges are messed up. Like, these bridges are over 100 years old, maybe 150, almost 200 years old. And so we want to, that's where you could create the jobs. Is revitalize means recreating the jobs instead of rebuilding the economy and getting back to where it was, because a lot of jobs are not coming back from nearing this economic depression from this global pandemic, right? So it's not coming back. It's not. And that's just what it is. It's just not coming back. Um, Also, there are, in the cases of COVID in New York City, what Andrew Cuomo touched base, and I have said this before he even said it, before even anybody in the news said it, I knew these cases did not come from China, because it will be a day travel for the virus to come from China to New York. And China's on the other side of the world. I knew these cases came from Europe, because Europe is the closest to New York City across the Atlantic Ocean. So, I mean, it makes sense before anybody said it. Because since COVID was around the world, it reached Europe already. I'm pretty sure people from Europe did not know they were exposed until they've fallen sick. And that's what happens. Because it's a sneaky virus. This virus is like invisible. And we're still learning about it. In terms of executive orders, Andrew Cuomo did put out an executive order for stores to not ban people from not wearing a mask, which is a good thing. But then it's like, so people just not going to come with their mask on? Because there's some people that will not come with their mask on because of that, and not respect people's social distancing. Because you have seen people that will cough on people on purpose. I'm just saying. Because that happens a lot. It does. It really does. And, like, that's where we are in the world. And we still got to wear our PPE. We still got to wear PPE. We still got to wear this. He said that there will be more testing sites within these boroughs. But you can catch the rest of his briefing on YouTube. So I just covered the coronavirus. Shortened it. Briefed it. But this whole racial justice thing. So there's different riots that sparked, of course, rallies, riots. I know in Minneapolis and St. Paul, which are the Twin Cities. Also in Denver, Colorado. There's a riot I heard in Louisville, Kentucky for Breonna Taylor. And then there was a protest here in New York City. So this has sparked so much national outrage because we're tired. Black people are tired. Hispanics are tired. Asians are tired. Indians are tired. I think everyone is just exhausted from, people dying from not just only police brutality, but murder. Like, why are we still, as a people, being killed? Like today when I saw the interview with George Floyd's brother, who was emotional and still in the emotional wreck of his brother being murdered like that on camera. Which a 17-year-old took the video, and she's like in shock, traumatic. She's going to have to see a therapist for a long time. And getting back to the interview with the brother, his younger brother, and he cried so many times on national TV because it's to see your sibling killed like that. If that happened to any of my sisters, I would lose my freaking mind behind that. And then one of the political commentators, Bakari Sellers, he cried on that because he has black children. He has a teenage daughter. He has a black son who's a baby, but still, he's his father was an activist who was also shot. I'm outraged. I may not be crying, but I'm pissed. I'm pissed every day. My father is a black man. My cousins, my male cousins, uncles. I don't have brothers, but I have men in my life who, been stopped by police before. I know my father's been stopped by police multiple times. And these cops are very unruly. They will use their excessive force to touch people, to hurt people. And people in these cities, people all over the country are just sick and tired. I'm sick and tired. And as a black woman, I'm even though I don't get pushed over by cops a lot, but I sure get the evil eye every time when I'm at the store. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting followed at the store. And I purchase things. I spend my hard-earned money. Okay? I spend my money. So when, I get the looks, or even living in the neighborhood that I live in, which is an Upper West Side neighborhood, which is really initially diverse, it just got gentrified. It's like, really? All these things, metaphors I'm making towards this, towards the murders of the 3 black people that were killed by the police for senseless shit. I'm saying is, when will this stop? When will the genocide of black people and executions will stop? Because until then, I am still going to raise hell all day, every day. And with this whole thing, lawmakers have called for an investigation and the arrest and the convictions of these prosecutions, of these 4 officers. That also include Kamala Harris was one of the first, which is a senator, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, and a whole host, Karen Bass, a whole host of folks. And also the FBI is supposed to be looking at this case, which is doing, but when was asked by the DOJ, well, I'll get to that soon. Also the governor, however, sent out the National Guard and also the tear gas of these riots. I mean, like, peaceful protests. I mean, I know you got some rowdy people, but you didn't have to get the tear gas. I mean, that's a bit much. Where was the tear gas for the other folks? Which I'm going to get to that next, because I got a whole lot to say. But the AG, which is Keith Ellison of Minnesota, is definitely keeping tabs on this, and also putting the feet to the fire of the attorneys, which they should do their job. But to each his own. Now getting to the politics of things. So I saw that White House press briefing. I can't stand Kayleigh McEnany. I never could before she became big. But she walked into the press room, not even saying hello, not even greeting people. Rude. Basically just went off a whole tindy of the SBA and the Paychecks Protection Act, all this bullshit. And with the whole, with the George Floyd and, Trump wishes family well. So, Jim Acosta of CNN asked McEnany about Trump's late response to the death toll rising to 100,000 Americans scrambled from coronavirus. She says, the flag was lower half staff. Always their response. And so she was asked for a follow-up. So what took so long? And then she says, it was lower half staff and blah, 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 blah. They downplayed this whole thing. They downplay this. She was also asked about the Twitter thing because Donald Trump put an executive order where basically limited the fact checking on social media. So basically giving conservative right-wing folks to basically put out lies and to basically attack people. So, I mean, less restraints on quote unquote because it's free speech. That's bull. He's mad because he got fact checked and putting out conspiracy theories for many years. I mean, why all of a sudden people wait to call for his account to be banned when it should have been banned a long time ago? Just saying. Also, she was basically giving snarky ass remarks and trying to basically pivot to the media, getting things wrong and blah 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 blah. Always that defense mechanism crap. She's also asked about the vaccine, and she said what matters is basically if a vaccine well, she said it matters if a vaccine is basically it's not that important. Only therapeutics are important. Like this whole administration overall, this whole administration is negligent. The incompetent, excuse me, negligent, disrespectful, and do a lot of un-American things that is not in the American norms. But this is what people have voted for. 100,000 people stayed home. That means that's a vote for Donald Trump. 53% of white women voted for him. And mostly white men voted for him. And a small percentage of black men voted for him. I just shake my head. And now we're stuck at home, quarantine, and nice weather because of this incompetent leader and because of people refusing not to vote for the woman who was qualified. Good job, America. Good job. But speaking of the GOP, so due to the events that happened with George Floyd and the national protests and some of the rioting, there was some folks within that protest that was also there for their own interior motive, because there's some that most of them were for peaceful protests and some of them were just for being rowdy. I'm not giving excuses, like Don Lemon said. I'm not giving excuses for people that were quote unquote taking things from the store, also known as looting different stores like Target and everything. I'm saying this. People are outraged. People are upset. This has been going on for so long, from like Rodney King to Amadou Diallo to Sean Bell to Eric Gardner to Trayvon Martin to Michael Brown to a whole host of other folks. Freddie Gray. A whole host of other folks. People are tired. Even though they shouldn't be throwing things and shouldn't be taking things, but people are sick and tired of this shit. As I am. I'm not going to go outside and protest because I don't like to be around a whole bunch of people, but I will make videos like this to spread awareness of things. And these Republicans, far right folks, I'm just going to say that, are characterizing these national protesters as people that are looting. So now they said, why are you looting? Why are you destroying your whole neighborhood? So we're back to the 60s again, where you're going to characterize people of looting their neighborhood. We're back to that shit again. We're back to that. Because when Martin Luther King died, there was a serious amount of riots. I get it. People were mad. People burned down these stuff, even though some of them were wrong doing that. But they were upset because a world leader they looked up to was killed in cold blood. Freddie Gray was killed in cold blood, but not by weapons, by somebody kneeling on his neck. And these Republicans want to talk about people looting a fucking store. Give me a break. Tommy Lauren, Mike Dice, all you other knucklehead Republicans need a shh on this one. You don't know what you're talking about? Just shh. Sit down, have a seat. Because you're just saying stupidness out your mouth. And even somewhat Megan, even though she was sensitive to this, she's talking about, oh, I want to be outside. Shh. Be quiet. Be quiet. Be quiet. Now on The View today, besides Megan today, they also interviewed Christian Cooper, who was the guy on Monday who was in the park watching the birds, and the whole thing about, I thought he was spreading COVID, but the lady was spreading COVID to him even though she was taking off her mask, but she wasn't. He was asking her to leash her dog, and she didn't, and she refused, so she called the cops falsely, making a false accusation, and she lost the job and lost the dog behind it. So I'm talking about Christian Cooper, the guy that was called on, the guy in New York, the biomedical dude, the biomedical guy. He was walking in the park, watching the birds, and he was on The View today, and him and his sister explained, why they made the video viral. And his sister said to him why she made the video viral was because she wanted to spread awareness. She wanted to spread awareness of what's going on, like why black men keep being victims of police brutality, of police harassment, and what's so not. And his sister, basically, she posted him, not him. He took the video and put it on his social media. His sister posted and made it viral. And then when he was asked about Amy Cooper losing her job and losing her dog, you would think a person like him would say, I'm glad she did that. No, he has grace in his heart. And with grace comes the blessings. He said, I don't want her to lose her job. I'm so sorry that she's getting death threats behind this, but we want to make awareness of it. But I don't want her to, to suffer and to lose her job and, to lose her dog and to get death threats. That shows the humility in his heart. And it shows that he has grace. Because if it was any other person, if it was me, even though I do go to church, I would have been like, God don't like ugly. But and still God doesn't like ugly. She will learn the accusation she made of 5 minutes of her life, of what she did, has 40 years of consequences. She lost her job. She lost her dog. I hope she doesn't lose her apartment, because that may be next on the list, or boyfriend, husband, whatever. She had a powerful position. And when she realized homeboy was a Harvard grad, a longtime comic, a LGBTQ activist on top of that, and now a biomedical editor, I'm pretty sure she felt like an ass. And she did release an apology statement, but it's like, what prompted you to do the shit that you did? Because that was fucked up. But I'm glad, like I said, she learned her lesson. And now she know she's going to have to live with the consequences. It's just as simple as that. In terms of, presidential politics, so, Joe Biden did release a statement of, an investigation should be called, prayers to the family, something that Donald Trump doesn't do like that. I mean, he did it, but his statements to be like, versus Biden's statements, it comes from a place of humility, But speaking of his VP choices, Amy Klobuchar, who is a senator from Minnesota, prior to her position as a senator, she was a prosecutor, a federal prosecutor. And this police officer by the name of, let me get the correct spelling of his name. His name is, I take notes. His name is Derek Chauvin. And he is a 19-year veteran of the police force in Minneapolis, who was the guy on the video that was kneeling on the neck of George Floyd. Him and 3 other officers with him were fired. However, they were not prosecuted yet. But he has a history of using excessive force. An example of it, according to NBC News and New York Post, I took 2 sources. He had numerous of allegations. He had over 18 allegations of this kind of behavior. And one of them was Wayne Reyes, who was suspected of stabbing his girlfriend was shot to death when he pointed his gun at the officers. That's what the reports say. Who knows what that report was, but Amy Klobuchar was the federal prosecutor at the time. And instead of trying him with these, or firing him and prosecuting him, she refused to prosecute these cases. So now that she's in the Senate, and now that she's in the process of being vetted as a VP candidate for Biden, it's like, no. I mean, she was, honestly, to tell you the truth, her presidential campaign was the most boring campaign out of all the campaigns. It was boring next to Steve Bullock and some other folks and Tim Ryan. And on top of that, when she did rise to prominence, it was still boring. I mean, it was still boring. I have no hatred towards Klobuchar, but it was boring as hell. I mean, it really, really was boring. And so for her to be picked as, being vetted as the VP for Biden, is like, nah, man. And then this on top of that is ultimate disqualification. I mean, she was polling 0 with black people, but now with this, hell, she's just better off. I mean, honestly, she's just better off as just being, in the Senate. My opinion. But who he should pick, there's a couple people he should pick that's women. I say Kamala Harris due to her foreign policy experience. Stacey Abrams you could put in there, but Stacey Abrams is just, she's not experiencing yet. And possibly Elizabeth Warren, but him and Elizabeth Warren, they're like oil and water. They don't really get along like that. So, just to piggyback, honestly, to tell you the truth, he's announcing his pick on August the 1st, which I'm like, that's a long ass time. Debates are supposed to be coming up. You want what? No. Oh. We're going to be waiting forever. We're going to be waiting for 2 months. It didn't take that long for a VP pick for President Obama. I mean, we learned fast of who his pick was. Just saying. But overall, we are some scary, unprecedented times. Over 40 million unemployed again. 1.7 million cases of COVID. Over 100,000 deaths of COVID. Riots are happening. These are some scary ass times. I mean, as much as I pay attention to the news, I also do other things besides go to the store. Besides, I exercised today to get my mind off of things. I did my feet. I'm about to do my nails pretty soon. I'm just trying to do things to make myself relaxed these days. I really am. And I think you should too. I think everyone should do something to soothe their mind. If you're an artsy person, you gotta make stuff. You could draw stuff. If you like to exercise like me, you can work out. You can run outside in the gym. You could take a walk, or research some stuff on the computer to relearn some things, or just to do some work in your house. There's always something to do. You just gotta make yourself useful. We may be alone and we may be apart, everyone, but we're still in this together. So stay safe, stay sanitized, and be blessed.